Welcome to the Kinesio Outdoors podcast, where my goal is to educate you on how to safely enjoy exercise indoors and outdoors, inspire you to experience life outside, and encourage you to live a more active life closer to nature. Today on the podcast, I have Austin from Grakksaw. Thank you for taking time out of your day to join me. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Doing great.
So, I remember in our messages that you recently had your fourth kid.
Yep.
So, what's sleep like on
Uh,
fourth one?
well, it's not the best. We have like a guest room, so I've been sleeping with like half the kids in there,
Yep.
and then my wife is sleeping with our second youngest daughter now, who's two, and our baby, because the baby's pretty much there's no reason for the baby to keep both of us awake all night. So my wife's taking one for the team and staying in there with her. So my sleep's been better actually the last couple
Okay.
weeks, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's how we decided to do it because we were both waking up absolutely wrecked every day. So
Yeah, it's tough. My second one's due February 10th, so I'm hoping I can convince my wife to do that. Probably not gonna happen. So
yeah,
yeah, we'll see.
that's
It's
awesome.
definitely a team
Yeah,
effort.
and a lot of people like told us, oh yeah, you gotta put like your baby in the crib or you gotta put
Hmm.
your baby in the other room so you can get more sleep. Yeah, I guess, but the problem is then if you're breastfeeding or feeding at all, I mean, if you're feeding your baby throughout the night, which you should be, then someone has to get up all the time. Whereas
Yep.
if your infant sleeps right by your wife and she's breastfeeding, like it's the easiest way. It's still not easy, but it's the easiest way um, to calm your baby down and to feed your baby is just to have your baby sleep with you.
Yeah, exactly. We did that for a little bit, probably 2 to 3 months. My wife would, like you just said, she's just like, I don't even really wake up. I just roll over, and then the baby's like does its thing, and she's like, and then when baby's done, just like give her some separation. She's like, then I just put my back to the baby, so the baby's not like reaching for anything. So that's what she did for I think 2 to 3 months. And like you
Yeah.
said, it's just at that stage, it's every 2 hours we were told by our doctor. So it's just broken sleep.
Yeah.
Was the best way. All
Yeah.
right, well, let's dive into what it is that got you into the outdoors. Do a brief introduction for us, kind of what got you to where you're at now, and then hopefully you can tie that into the business that you've got.
Yeah. So, my name is Austin Bernsketter. So I kind of, I mean, I whitetail hunted my entire life and turkey hunted and all that, but, I really didn't get like, I would say serious into hunting until some point in college.
Hmm.
Through high school, I played a lot of sports and I still hunted, but it was like a weekend a year, if that. And I just did it to be around the family. But then I started getting into it more midway through college, bought a bow in college, and started hunting more seriously. Then I had my first elk hunt just a couple years after college, maybe a year or two. Maybe it was the first year after marriage. I don't remember, but early on. Um, and I became pretty much addicted to Western hunting after that first elk hunt. So got into elk. I mean, it was just awesome. Everything you want. I heard close bugles. I almost killed elk multiple times on public land. It was just awesome. So that kind of started my journey. Then that hunt I took pillowcases with me for my game bags
Hmm.
because I mean I didn't buy almost anything. I bought a $120 Alps Outdoors Commander pack off Amazon,
Yep.
and and then I bought like a little E-Tech City $12 gas stove and isobutane fuel canister. And I seriously think that's all I bought for my first elk hunt to bring
Oh,
like that I didn't already have. And thank God it was warm weather because I had pretty much straight cotton and I would have been smoked if something bad weather actually happened. But
yeah.
then the next year I went elk hunting. And in that period of time between the first and second year, I decided to make some game bags because that was one of the heaviest things in my pack and most bulky with those stupid cotton pillowcases. So I made some nylon game bags and I made them orange and I made them a certain size that would fit what I thought boneless quarters really well. And I took them and I aired a bull like day 9 or 10 in Colorado. and it was a nice mature 6 point bull, and he fit perfectly in the bags I made.
It's
And
cool.
I was like, awesome, I think I'm going to start selling these. Like, I didn't plan on it. And then that's when I started Grakksaw. That was the first product I had, was the ultralight game bag. So
And what year was that?
ooh, that 2017 is when I
Okay.
killed that bull.
Yep.
Yeah, 2017 is when I killed the bull. So I really started selling like in 2018, 20, yeah,
Yeah.
2018, but I didn't really give it much effort until like about 2020, right when the pandemic hit is when I started really putting effort into the business. So
Yeah. So that's awesome. And you have so I'm gonna pull a little bit more out of you. So where are you from? Where's your home area at?
I'm from Jefferson City, Missouri. So it's the
Okay.
capital of Missouri, dead center in the state. Dead center, east, west, north, south. That's
Yep.
where we're at.
So my dad's from Eastern Pennsylvania, and the three things that people do there are deer hunt, wrestle, and play football.
Yep.
So is that kind of what it's like there? Maybe not as much wrestling?
Not as much wrestling, but I mean, it used to be more. I feel like it's maybe making a comeback now. When I went through high school, I did wrestle, but it
Hmm.
wasn't as common.
Yeah.
You know, but like the high school I went to, Helias, they had our coach. He got surpassed, I think now, maybe, or he's still the number one winningest coach in Missouri. So like our
Wow.
high school wrestling program was crazy.
Yeah, that's cool.
They had, man, I think we had probably have close to more than 12 to 20 All Americans
Wow.
since the 80s,
Yeah.
like a couple three timers, multiple two timers, a few
Hmm.
three timers. I don't know if we have a four timer, but yeah, so we had a really good wrestling program for a while.
Yeah, so I just wanted to kind of get the set the scene for people because when you said family deer camp, if deer hunting is
Mhm.
like an integral part of family life, yeah, you go to family deer camp and you've got all ages. And then as soon as the kids are old enough to sit in the stand with, dad, mom, grandpa, whoever, right? Then, okay, they kind of upgraded there. And then whoever's staying back with the kids is with the littler kids. And you just see like this hierarchy of things. So as soon as you said that, I was imagining that's what you were talking about. And kind of sounds like that was the case, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, we would do a couple different deer camps. We would have the one at my dad and his friend owned a farm like 30 minutes away, and that would be I mean, we'd shoot some does, but it was mostly like opening weekend. Everybody's going for a big buck. That's like what
Yep.
everybody's hoping for.
Uh-huh.
And then the season would progress and, it'd be less of a deer camp. Then the hardcore guys would be there hunting. And then after that, it's in Missouri, it's a doe season is usually, it's changed now, but it was always like the first full weekend in December.
Hmm.
And then we'd go up to my uncle's in northern Missouri and do deer drives. Like I'm sure
Yep.
PA deer drives were a thing.
Sure, it's the same thing.
Yeah, my father-in-law still loves to do them, and I absolutely hate doing them on most places just because all you're doing, in my opinion, is blowing all your deer off the property and onto your
Yep.
neighbors because
Yep.
you might kill one or two, but I feel like I feel like success on deer drives is like, man, I don't know, it's under 25%,
Yeah, it's pretty
which
low.
which is good for hunting. 25% kill rate in hunting is great,
Hmm.
except you're pushing all the deer off the property. So it's like for a week, you're not going to see as many deer,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. I'm with you. So the way it was for my dad and his brothers growing up is essentially they were the dogs because my grandpa didn't do dogs. And they were walking, and my grandpa was just, okay, I've got three boys and me, I've got four tags to fill.
Yep.
So that was the way he did it, in
Yep.
1970s. Definitely different now. But yeah, I'm sure it's the same thing. I'm sure everybody does their hooping and hollering as they kind of move through
Yeah.
the bedding area. And yeah, it's definitely a
Yeah.
different way
Like,
of doing it.
yeah, it was awesome going up to Chillicothe because it's northern Missouri and there's a lot of crops around and deer. And we
Hmm.
would go on all these, huge parcels of 500 acres, 1,000 acres. And yeah, I mean, some years were really good. I mean, we'd lay down some deer. I mean, it was pretty awesome. Like,
Yeah, I bet.
uh, yeah. There's this one there's this one deer drive. I guess I don't know what the statute of limitations is, but there's this one deer drive where they ran probably 12 to 15 deer and they ran directly at me.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, feet from me. Like I could have touched these deer with my barrel. And
Yeah.
I had a I had a Browning BAR, so
Okay.
it was
Yep.
awesome, man. It was a fun time as a kid doing that stuff. So
Yeah. Well, that's cool. And then another thing that you mentioned that I want to circle back to is, so you mentioned end of college and then when you got married. Was
mhm.
that like pretty
Yeah,
smooth, that transition?
I was
Okay.
engaged through college and I got married. My wife graduated right before me, like the semester before me, I think. So
Hmm.
we got married my senior year, the week before finals week.
Oh man.
So I pretty much was checked out during finals. I mean, I just had to get, I knew I had pretty much straight A's, so I didn't have to try very hard. So
Yeah.
I mean, as far as at finals, I didn't have to try very hard.
Yeah, yeah.
So I kind of just cashed it in and, took my B's and C's and
Yeah, that
passed.
works. What was your
Yeah.
degree in?
Mechanical engineering.
Okay, yep, there it is. I was waiting for you to mention something for like design aspect and
Hmm.
something I've noticed you, Bill Vanderheiden, and a few other guys, it's like some sort of engineering, right? Jason Phelps. And
Hmm.
then they just seamlessly work that into design and then start this company and then it grows. And I was waiting for something like that. Plus straight A's. That's an engineering thing to do. Was
Well,
college for you too?
yeah, I mean, I don't know. Actually, I don't know. I'm trying to think what my college GPA was. It wasn't the best. I mean, I did get a couple B's and C's, but um, uh, yeah, the design part, man, I don't know. I feel like engineering school, it doesn't actually, I don't really use my engineering degree. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
ever. I mean, I don't ever sit down and do equations or
Yep, exactly.
I'm not really doing strength analysis that often or anything like that. It's just, I think all it is just like a good, it's a good way to measure. It's a good way to put yourself through like a stress test, really, because that's all it
Stress test. A
is a
stress
stress
test, and
test.
then
And
you learn a different way to think. So I teach college. I'll tell you off air where I teach college at. I just got the job. And
I think I
essentially,
can tell by the link.
probably. You
Maybe.
can probably tell by the link. Yeah. So that's funny. I forgot that. So what I always tell my students is like, yes, you're not going to be solving for the initial velocity of anybody as a physical therapist. But what you're doing is you're learning a way to think, that thinking process, and you're learning how to problem solve, and you're learning discipline, and you're learning how to figure stuff out.
Yeah.
That's what I always tell people. And I feel like engineers, they're like, yeah, I never do derivatives to find the acceleration. I was like, that doesn't happen, right? But like you said, it's kind of like a way of testing yourself. It's learning that thought process, which is pretty sweet. So with that, I want to transition into what I was intrigued about at the Portland show, which is your e-boiler. So what was the gap that needed to be filled with the e-boiler? And I mean, obviously with patents and stuff, don't get into that, but what is it that the e-boiler is? And then kind of dive into how that's different, how that's going to kind of change the game.
Yeah. I mean, um, it's kind of a long, it's still like dominating my thoughts, the e-boiler, because there's still things that are being worked out.
Yeah.
It's going to be a work, it's going to be so I've been working on it for since, yeah, probably been working on it since about the 20, 17, 8, no, sorry. Man, yeah, about then, about 2017, 2018, like when I first had some of the ideas. But then as an actual product, like 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
The gap that needed to be filled was I wanted to make something that is just plug and play and makes doing skull work easier and that is just more efficient, I guess, in general. Like the first reason why I started this idea, I guess, was because we did one of my brother's elk and it was really cold here in Missouri and windy. So, this is in November timeframe, something like that, end of October. We get back to Missouri. We're all excited. We're processing his elk while we're boiling his skull outside. Well, first off, we couldn't even find a container in our town.
Yep.
they would hold this. So we took a 55-gallon drum, sawzalled it into a
Mhm.
third, filled it with water, wrapped it with some insulation because it was so cold and windy.
Yep.
Then, excuse me, put a big fryer burner underneath of it with a 20-pound propane tank. And it was like almost turned up full blast just to
Yep.
keep the water simmering because it was so cold and the wind is what really stripped heat. So, and then we were messing with it all day, taking pliers, pulling it off, pressure washing it. And I
Yep.
was just like, man, this is an awful waste of time. I think we damaged part of the nose.
Hmm.
It was just like, this is so bad. So I started thinking of ways to try and do um, to make it better. So then maybe like 2 years later, I just had this big tote made out of just I guess I'd say a composite material, and it could handle high temps. And I started putting electric elements in it and just testing different things. And then I learned about the process of maceration after that, which made it even better. Which is why the boiler is so awesome. I think is because it can do hot temps, but it can also do low and slow indefinitely. So, uh, anyways, I'm running in circles, but I wanted to have a solution to the inefficiencies of a traditional gas boiler. Pretty much
Yep.
is what it comes down to. Um,
So with that, I think you're underselling what you got there. So describe what it is. I mean, I could sit here and read the description right off the website, but one thing that I want to point out is the shape of it is in general the shape of a skull, right?
mhm.
And then what else is there about it that makes it, you don't need to say like more efficient, but what is it about it that makes it so you don't have to just sit there and babysit it all day?
Yeah, so it's electric. So that's like the biggest differentiator,
For
probably
sure. Yeah.
one of them. So you just plug it in to your 120, 110 AC outlet, and it's going to turn on. It's got an LCD screen. You just set your temp that you want it to go. It is roto molded like a Yeti cooler.
Yep.
So for people, that's what it looks like. But it's a lot different of a plot resin and plastic than most coolers. Almost every cooler. It's actually a plastic more similar to like aircraft and
Mm.
uh, super industrial fuel tanks, because it has to be able to handle a wide variety of chemicals and a lot of stress. So
Yeah.
it's not just it's a special type of plastic that's resin there that's molded. It's insulated, so that's like the second biggest thing.
Hmm.
Uh, Roto molding. I went through a lot of different manufacturing types. I was gonna weld things. I was gonna do all kinds of different. I went through so many different ways to make what I wanted, and but it had to have the two things I just mentioned. It had to be electric, and it
Yep.
had so I could temperature control it accurately, and it had to be insulated because if you have an electric boiler and it's not insulated, it's not going to be able to maintain heat without running on it's going to have to be on 220, 240,
Yep.
and you're going to be blowing a lot of juice. Otherwise, it's going to burn off its heat. So, um, that being said, the insulation, and how it's designed, it is the minimum volume of water that will fit an elk head. That almost, I mean, it could be smaller, but it's really close with the rotomolding constraints to make the water volume minimal and the size of the product as small as I could to decrease cost while still fitting an elk head.
Yep.
Because like I could obviously have made just a big giant tub and not made it all these little features, and it would have been a lot easier for me. But um, yeah, so it's meant to hold a head, like you said. It's rectangular. The dimensions are essentially 30 long, 14 or 30 long, 15 wide, 15 tall, and that allows you to fit an elk head and a deer head in at the same time sometimes, and multiple deer heads every time. So
Yep.
I've fit 4 deer heads in it before at once. Um, but yeah, what other I'm going back to what your question was, you know, what makes it different.
Yeah, I think that's a
It
big
allows
part
you
of it.
to, yeah. So, and being insulated and electric, it allows you to do a process called maceration, which no other boiler that I know of can really do effectively.
Yeah, so why don't
Um,
you explain that for people? Um, because not everybody knows what that is and understands the importance of it. Because as you mentioned, a lot of people when they boil skulls, they mess up the nose, and then sometimes the teeth end up falling out, right? Those are kind of the
yeah.
two spots that I've noticed. So why don't you explain the maceration process and why that's so important in keeping the skull looking as it was, prior to the boil?
Yeah, so as far as the teeth, if you would knock the teeth out, you can super glue those back in, and
Yeah.
provided you can find them and put them in the right spots. But
Hmm.
yeah, when you boil a skull, there's not per se anything wrong with it besides if it'll start damaging it'll start damaging the skull pretty quickly. You can't leave a skull boiling for very long. Like if you have a rolling boil and you have a skull in there, man, more than an hour and a half, you're
Yeah.
2 hours, like you might toast your skull. A good simmer, you can, say 185, 200 to 195, you could keep that skull in maybe 4 hours
Hmm.
before damage starts happening, 6 hours in there. Excuse me. Um, so yeah, the maceration process is kind of going the opposite way of that. It is not as fast, but it is more efficient, like the whole design of the boiler. The maceration process, you allow bacteria to do the work and not heat. Whereas boiling and simmering, you're allowing heat to do the work to cook the meat, and then you're mechanically separating the tissue off the bone. Maceration is allowing bacteria to form that attack all the cartilage, all the proteins in the dead head, and it just starts sloughing away from the skull. So what you need for that is an anaerobic environment. You need low oxygen and um, controlled temp. So like what 85, I think it is 85 degree. Well, it can actually work colder, but I would say 85 to 110 is like the sweet spot. So I usually do around 100, but essentially you just submerge your head in, set the temp to 100, let it sit, change the water after a couple days because it's going to get really smelly and nasty. Dump it, change the water, put the head back in, and you just let that do for, between 4 and 8 days, depending on how dirty the head was and a lot of other factors. I mean, there's tons of things that change the speed of maceration, but
Yeah.
usually about a week, and your head can be rinsed off. You might have to like pull the lower jaw piece off, but it'll all just pull right off. Everything will fall out of the nose except the bones. Like you won't have any cartilage left. It'll be perfect in the nose. The brain will be out. So it just makes it way less work. You know, you can macerate multiple heads at the same time. There's no threat of damaging anything because there's no high temp. So you can forget about your heads. Even if the water level gets low, the worst thing that'll happen is your water level gets low and the crown of the forehead is out of the water. It just won't macerate there for that time period. Then you can just fill it back up. Oops, I forgot to add water. Fill it back up. It'll start going again later. And that's the other thing with maceration. Because the temp is so low, unless it's really cold outside, you really don't lose much to evaporation. So right now here we have, I mean, it's pretty hot, say 90 degrees midday plus here, and pretty dry. But I have this boiler or two right now running under my deck. It's shaded, and I have to add, man, like a quarter inch of water a day to maceration, if that, not, I mean, I'm just taking the hose, trickling in for 10 seconds, it's done. And so it's not a new way to do things. I feel like it's a newer way for the hunting community, but like,
Hmm.
I mean, people have been doing maceration in different forms for forever, and people do it. They don't even know what it is. I mean, some guys they'll soak them in a bucket, or they'll just. I mean, essentially burying a head is almost the same thing. If there's lots of ways to do it, but this just makes it, I guess, commercially viable and end user easy. You don't have to be a taxidermist to macerate. It's super easy. Um, it's anyone can do. I mean, you can be 10 years old and understand it. It's so easy.
Yeah, and that's what I think is so cool about what you have is so a couple things there. If somebody has never boiled a skull and you do your once in a lifetime trip to Colorado or wherever, you get your elk, you're super excited. A lot of people crank up the heat on their skulls because they have the weekend. They have that one day, and then they have to go back to work for 5 or 6. And that's where they kind of try to cut corners. We get the really high heat, boiling off a lot of water, steaming, right? Getting all that off. What's cool about this is you can almost set it and forget it. And, check the water levels once or twice a day. And then when you come back, it's mostly done. Boiling an elk skull takes so long. It is so long. It takes so many steps. Boil the water for a couple hours, heads in there, and then once you get to a certain point, you're checking it every hour. So you're pulling it out. You've got aluminum on the bottom, the bases of the antlers, right? And you're getting your pliers and your screwdrivers and your knife and whatever, scraping all this off. And this way, you don't have to be married to just this Euro thing that you're doing all day. So, like you said, you can go and butcher your couple deer, whatever it is, and then you can just come back and check on it periodically, once or
Yeah, I
twice a
mean,
day.
maceration, you can't damage it unless you leave it in there for, man, it's like more than a month, 2 months. I mean, I don't even, it might be longer than 2 months. Like if you macerate in this thing with this temp set, it can, I mean, you can go the whole Christmas season and not have to even worry about it. Like you can't damage it, which is huge. You not damaging your mount.
Yeah.
Um, and you still like I'm coming out with a full guide on start to finish that's going to
Hmm.
release with the boilers. Like the boilers are just a little delayed right now. They're starting to trickle out in the next week, but I'm coming out with a full guide of kind of how I like to do things and how some really good guys in the industry like to do things. And um, you still, so the idea of a skull is one, you clean it. The optimal way is you clean your head as thoroughly as possible. You remove
Hmm.
the brains, eyes, everything you can. So you have the least amount of flesh on the skull going in as possible. That's the optimal way. Doesn't have to be done that way. That's the optimal way. It'll reduce the smell, it'll reduce the time.
Hmm.
You put that head in, you let it macerate or boil or simmer or whatever you're going to do until there's absolutely zero flesh on the head. You have to make sure there's no flesh or it's going to stink forever. You take that head out when there's no flesh on it, and then you have to do a process called degreasing. So there's tons of different ways to degrease. There's guys that do it with Dawn dish soap. There's guys that do it with ammonia. There's guys that do it with acetone. There's there's a million different ways and products, and some better than others. Usually, the faster you can degrease something, usually the faster you degrease it, the more expensive the method is, and or the more hazardous to the bone the method
Hmm.
is. So,
Yeah.
like one of the best ways to degrease a skull is with acetone, but acetone is dangerous, flammable, super expensive if you want to get enough to do a head properly. It's very hard on most materials. So like everything has a trade off. But then after you degrease, which again I'm going to show all this on the guide, then the last step is whitening. And there's some ways to do whitening and degreasing all at the same time. There's ways to do the cleaning and degreasing at the same time. I don't know if there's a way to put a head in and have it cleaned with all the meat, degreased, and whitened all in one step. I don't know if that's possible yet,
Yeah.
but you can still turn this long, time consuming, kind of complicated process into a pretty basic, pretty basic 3-step process,
Hmm.
with a little guidance and using maceration, it just makes it, I wouldn't say dummy proof, but again, it makes it a lot easier. I mean, that's why I do it because, like you're saying, I got 4 kids now. I have animals. I got work to do. I can't, it's just like, I don't want to pick a day to mess with this all day,
Yep.
you know? And
You don't
then,
have a day.
yeah. And then exactly. And then something's going to go on. Like I'm going to have to help with a kid or someone unexpected is going to stop or I got to take a call or something. And I'm going to forget about my elk skull going on unless I have constant reminders on my phone and I'm going to damage it or whatever. So
Yeah, exactly.
I don't boil at all anymore. The only way I would boil or simmer even would be if I had to get it done fast.
Yep.
There's no reason not to. If you got to get it done fast, you got to get it done fast. So I understand when guys have to do that, like outfitters or something, if they want to send the head with their client. I get that. You have to. But if you have the time and you're an end user at home, super easy. And I don't know what it costs for you to get something done at the taxidermist, but around here, I would say Euros are becoming more and more popular just because full mounts and shoulder mounts are becoming so expensive. I
Yep.
feel like a good quality shoulder mount here for whitetail is over 500 now. And
Yeah.
an
I think,
elk is going on 1200 to 2500 depending who does it here. So people are just like, man, I already spent a week and a half off work. I already bought $1,000 elk tag,
yep.
and now I gotta pay 2 grand and wait an entire year to get my 5 point bull back. It's like I think a lot of people are going to the Euro route just because it's way cheaper. And I talked to a bunch of families at some of the shows, and it'd be like a father and 2 sons and their uncle, and they'd be like, "Man, between us four, we kill 1 or 2 bulls and 3 or 4 deer a year.
Yep.
That alone is like, even if you're paying them to get just euroed,
Hmm.
that pays for the boiler in one season,
That's right. It
because
does.
right here, euro deer are probably the cheapest guys are like $100 up to like 150,
Hmm.
and then maybe 80. I don't know. Maybe there's some guy in the backwoods doing it for 80 around here. I don't know, but and then elk, you're looking at 150 to 220, I'd guess, around here.
Yeah. Up here in
So
Elk's 250.
yeah. So I mean, if you're killing an elk between you and your group of friends, killing an elk and a few deer a year, like this boiler's paid for in 1 year.
Yep.
So, and what I advise people to do is buy it for your hunting partner or buy it for like your kid or nephew. That way they're like, wow, Uncle John gave me this awesome gift. And you did. You're a nice guy. But also now he's responsible for doing all your heroes. So that's the way to do it, man.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I love that. That's perfect. That's so funny. Plus, yeah, give it to someone that you know they're gonna be in your lives like forever,
Yeah.
right? So you can
Yeah.
just reap those benefits.
Yeah. Or
That's
do it
too
yourself.
funny.
It's easy and it's kind of fun. I mean, I think the maceration is fun. It's like it's pretty wild too when you do it how I mean, we've done a lot of deer, my buddy and I, with the hide on.
Hmm.
So it's so crazy when you take a complete severed whitetail head,
Yep.
ears, hide, eyes, tongue, everything, and dump it in this pot. And you come back 2, 3 days later and change the water, and like almost all the fur and everything's already off.
Yeah,
And
it's
then
just
you
oh,
come back another 3 or 4 days later, and it's like, okay, it's done. I just hose it off, maybe take a brush a few things off, and it's
yeah.
like, wow, where did it all go? It's mind blowing the first time you see it. It doesn't seem like it's going to work. I remember the first time when I learned about maceration, and my neighbor did it a bunch, and he told me what to do, and he came and showed me some stuff, and I'm just like, there's no way, man, this is going to work. Like, there's no way. He's like, I do it all the time, and sure enough, pull the head out, and it's clean. It's really cool. It's cool to see. It's cool to do. Um, and it's almost like I feel like it's kind of the meat. It's like the next step of the hunting movement. Maybe that's a
Yeah.
little much to say, but like how hunters in the last 10 years or so have
Mhm.
taken back the processing of
Yep.
animals. I feel like, I mean,
Yep.
I do all my own. I feel like from planning yourself to hunting yourself to killing yourself to processing yourself to preserving yourself
Yep.
is like the complete package. And that's going to give you a lot of pride in what you did, I feel like.
Yeah. And then like you said, in just a couple years it's paid off. So now it's just making your out of state hunts or your hunts just a little bit less if you're,
Mm-hmm.
doing a Euro with everything. So I think that's
Yeah.
super cool.
And the out of state thing, man, another reason the electric makes it easy is you can just bring this thing with you if you
Yep.
really are in a time crunch and
Hmm.
you're at a hotel, Airbnb, or even have a Honda generator. It'll run on a Honda generator.
Oh.
So, Honda generator, the 2200s, they're standard. They have a
Hmm.
20 amp outlet. This thing will run at 12 to 13 amps on the like when it's drawing max power. So
Yep.
it won't trip your breaker ever on a Honda generator. So you can put your Honda generator on whatever throttle down, or your generator on throttle down, or your inverter on throttle down mode, it's only going to be, giving it some strain whenever it's heating up. Once it gets to temp, it's going to drop back down and you can go hunting. You could do whatever you got to do. So I think that's another benefit. It can be used for out of state guys just like a gas one could.
Yeah, and I want to just touch with that. So one of the things with that is once you get up to temp, it just maintains, right? So it'll
Yeah.
be pretty stagnant, and then it'll juice up if it needs to, and then it'll be kind of more stagnant again. It'll kind of cycle, but the cycle is going to be at a lower amp, right? So that's super neat.
Yeah.
I
Well,
gotta ask, was that by design or was that
yeah.
a happy coincidence?
No, it was by design.
Okay,
So
good.
it's
Yeah.
it's PID controlled. So
Hmm.
that's a whole nother section kind of in the manual, but it's PID controlled and it's tuned. It's called tuning. The end user can set different tunings, but it's tuned at 70 degrees Fahrenheit for 185 degrees set temperature. So what that
Hmm.
means is air temperature 70, and you want to get your water to 185. So that's what it's tuned for out of the box, and you can change that easily. But what that means is it's going to get to 185 as fast as it can, and then it's going to not overshoot and not undershoot. It's going to know it's 70 degrees. Everything is calibrated to reach 185 and be perfect, and then it shuts off.
Yeah.
And then the hysteresis is like the temperature sensitivity. I'll have to look back in my notes what I ended up settling on. I think I have it as a degree. So it wants to keep a degree accuracy. I might have it
Pretty
2 degrees.
tight.
I can't. Yeah. So it's a degree or two. I forgot what I set it as. You don't want to get it too tight, but you don't want to get it too sloppy. But
Yeah.
within 5 degrees for boiling a skull is perfect. But yeah, so if this thing starts reaching 187 degrees, it's gonna totally kill it and go back down. And if it starts reaching 183 degrees, it's gonna kick all the way back on.
Yeah.
But whenever it starts getting to that upper end, it's just gonna just on off on off on off on off on off on off on. Like you can look at a watt meter, and it won't, sometimes watt meters won't even be able to read what's going on because it's
Hmm.
happening. Um, but yeah, then 100 degrees, it can maintain 100 degrees so well.
Yeah. I'm sure.
Your power usage is very minimal,
Yeah.
especially you have it covered up. Like it's minimum 1 inch insulation. It's an inch and a half in a lot of places. So like you get that water hot, it takes a long time for it to get colder.
Yeah. Well,
So
sweet. Thanks for explaining all that. That's super interesting to me. And now I want to get into do you want to talk about your boot dryer or your skull hangers first? Let's do skull hangers just because that kind of ties in. So your skull hangers are probably the most affordable option I've seen. And it's so simple and it looks great on the wall. So, I mean, with that
thanks, you
one,
said it all, man.
yeah, sorry to steal your thunder there, but yeah, it's so simple. Take two
Yeah.
screws, find your stud, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, the deer ones, yeah, they're pretty cheap, I guess. They got they got three prongs, so a central tab and then two side prongs. Um, the central tab goes inside the animal skull, where the vertebrae and brain would be into the brain cavity, and then the two
Mhm.
prongs go on the underside of, excuse me, I guess the underside of the, what do you even call that? I can't remember now.
Yeah,
That
the connection
where the
between that
vertebrae, where the
foreman.
actual vertebrae would connect, you know.
Yep.
You would know. What is that? What's
Yeah,
that first one
so
called?
it's on the underside of the foramen. The foraмен's that hole that goes into the back of the skull. It's
Okay.
just on the underside of it. The bone there kind of wings out a little bit,
Hmm.
and your two prongs go under that connection there.
Yeah. So by doing that on a deer and smaller game, it will almost any game, but on for those specifically, it will keep the head from rotating or spinning, and
Hmm.
you can lock it in. Lots of skulls too are not lots. Some skulls are actually lopsided. The actual
Yeah.
bone itself, like one side of their nose will be longer or their head will be bigger, different things like that. So by having those prongs like that, you just press it down on there and you can arrange it however you want and it's going to stay. It's all powder coated steel. So like it'll lock in and be the exact angle you want. Then the elk ones, I tried to make those as simple as possible too. They go behind the eyes, the occipital bones,
Hmm.
and you just set the skull on it and it's done. You have a plate that can go in and out, with it's toolless, so you just drop in these um, wing nuts, and you can screws. It's all cut. It's all cut where you just drop in the screw. It's going to be self-retaining, and you can adjust the angle of your elk skull so the antlers get close to the wall but don't hit it. Because
Yeah.
lots of times, smaller elk on mounts, they'll be like almost inverted and they look
Hmm.
really goofy. Their antlers are way out, their heads like their nose is touching the drywall, and it just looks, in my opinion, pretty stupid. So I made it where you could have every mount from a raghorn to a giant bull all out facing the room like I think they should. So
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you there. Yeah, it's super cool. That was, and seeing that, I was like, it's so simple. I really like
yeah.
simple things that work, and that's exactly what you've got there. So, in my opinion, you nailed that one. And with that one, on your website, you got some videos on putting it up. You've got some pretty sweet bucks there. So I think
Oh
you
yeah.
undersold the Missouri hunting camp a little bit. One of the
Oh
bucks you
yeah.
put up is a kind of a wiggly antler looking deer.
Yeah, I'd have to see. Yeah, is it
Yeah,
like a lot of trash and stuff?
kind of. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a nice buck. Yeah, I got some decent ones in there. My best buck is shoulder mounted.
yeah, of
Um,
course.
but I don't know. I go back and forth now. I'm almost like I don't know which I like better. I almost like the it's like a sin here to say that. Like some of the old timers and my dad's hunting partner and stuff, like they're like, if you kill a buck at this farm, it needs to be shoulder mounted. And I'm like, all right, I guess. But
Oh
I like to Euro.
yeah, that's funny. All right, so the last thing I want to get to is let's talk about your backcountry boot dryer. Because again, there's a problem and you've got a solution. So why don't you talk about that one?
Yeah, so a friend, Brian Call, years and years ago was like, hey, I have a problem with my boots getting wet, my feet sweaty, and all this. I need a solution. So I already had talked to him and stuff. So I sent him a text or called him and it's like, hey, dude, I'll send you something at the end of this week. And so I sent him something within a week, and it was like the first prototype boot dryer, and he tried it out and it worked. And so I made some more, got a little more production going, and started selling them. And then people were like, the feedback was incredible. Like I wasn't so sure at first, I was like, I mean,
Hmm.
they work. I mean, I tested them before I ever gave them to anyone. I'm like, yeah, they dry boots, but like, I don't know what people, how, if people are going to be, I don't know what people's standard are. Like, are they going to be really mad that it didn't get their boots bone dry in 5 minutes? I didn't
Yeah.
know. So I made those, and yeah, people started liking them, and so I just kept going with it. And I've changed the design over the years and made them better and lighter and tougher and waterproof. All this stuff. Changed the connectors. But yeah, it's just a simple little device. You just pop into your boots, they lock in, and you plug them into a battery pack, and they start drying your boots. So it's really a simple idea.
So a couple questions with that, because again, you're really good at underselling what you got. This is amazing. For anybody that's in the backcountry, if your boots get wet day one and you've got 6 more days, those 6 days you're gonna get more blisters and it's just gonna be awful. Your feet are always gonna be cold and then hot and then soggy and you're gonna get, what is it, like gangrene potentially? Like all these things, right? So you've
Trench
got this
foot. I don't know.
really
I don't
great
know anybody
product.
that's ever got trench foot, but I guess you
Trench
could.
foot, that's what I'm thinking of, yeah. I'm saying things can happen, right? And you've got this thing. It's super small. I'm trying to get an idea just looking at the website here. It looks like it packs up to like maybe a third or half of a Nalgene bottle. Is that about right?
The boot dryer, it's like the total diameter is it's about a 3 inch, a little over a 3 inch diameter.
Okay.
And then height wise, it's like a little over a half inch. So it's pretty
Oh,
much
way smaller. Okay.
the disc is yeah, and the prongs keep it locked in. So it's like say a 3.5 inch circle by an inch, you know, an
Yeah, for
inch block.
both.
I got one right if I can open this
Perfect.
really quick. I mean,
Yeah, so that's so small. Trying to find, yeah, it's 4 ounces. So
yeah,
you
they're
got something super
3.7 right
small.
now. I
Okay,
list
so
4 ounces, but
you cut it.
so
Yeah.
there's my finger. I mean,
Yeah. That's super tiny.
yeah,
Yeah. It's like a really thick coaster.
yeah.
So, anyways, that's awesome because when you're in the backcountry, like you mentioned with your pillowcases, you don't want something big and bulky. And something with the backcountry is whatever you have, you want it to be functional, you want it to work, and you don't want it to take up a lot of volume because as hunters, we're going back there full and we're going to come back, fingers crossed, more full with more stuff, right? We're going to have meat, cape, head, whatever it is. So you want things that are going to be able to pack small, like your ultralight game bags. Well, with this, that's going to pack super small. And then my next question, I've got two, whatever order you want to answer, is one, let's say the boots are like kind of damp. How long do you leave the boot dryers on the boots? And then the other question is how much juice does it take?
So as far as how to leave them on the boots, it's mainly environmentally based, like whatever ambient air temperature and relative humidity are. So if it's above 50 degrees and low humidity, which is common throughout the West, then if they're like damp from hiking through some wet grass in the morning and sweat, they'll be dry in about 2 hours, I would say. Um, if they're completely soaked, like sopping wet,
Yeah.
and you have 50, 55 degrees, but low humidity again, overnight, they might still be a hair damp in the morning, but it's going to mostly knock it out, especially if you pull your insoles out,
Yep.
squeeze those out. Make sure you get all the actual standing water out of your boot, get all the standing water out of it, and then put those in. They'll be mostly dry in the morning. And that's not a big deal because it's only using 1.25 watts. So when a cell phone charges, like your iPhone, Android, anything, standard cell phones charge at 1 amp, 1 amp at 5 volts. So you're looking at 5 watts. So this uses 1.25 watts to 1.35. So it's using 25% of the power that a phone would use to charge per, that's measured, that's per second. So like, so your phone, I don't know what it takes to get to, but if your phone charges for an hour from zero to get to 100, it takes an hour.
Hmm.
This can run for 4 hours and use the same amount of power. That's
Yep.
essentially how you could look at it.
That's the analogy I was looking for. Yeah. Because, like you said, obviously it's different. Ambient temperature, how wet something is, right? That all is going to play a big factor. Um, so that's a really, really good
But,
analogy there.
and yeah, dude, if you have a hot tent or you're able to get back to your truck and you have your floor defrost heat on,
Hmm.
or a hot tent where in the top of my teepees, when I have a stove rolling, it's probably almost 100 degrees at the top. You can
Probably,
put
yeah.
your boots up there and the boot dryer is blowing into them, and your soaking wet boots will be drying like, I mean, they can be dripping soaked throughout. And if they're in the top of the teepee with these running like 30, 40 minutes, they will be crispy, dry, stiff. Like you
Yeah.
can get them too dry at the top of a teepee. Like you
For
can
sure.
turn them into, you can dry the leather out so bad and fast. So yeah, with a hot tent, or again, I always keep a pair in my truck. So when I pack a load of meat out,
Hmm.
I will usually pull off my boots, put them in the truck drying with the boot dryers, and then I'll wear my sandals or Crocs or whatever and like eat some food and hang out, stretch my legs. That's like my meat pack tradition. I take a load
Yeah.
out, dry my boots a little bit, change my socks, take another load out, and just do that it just makes it so comfortable and easy. I'm always hiking with dry feet.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thanks for explaining everything. You had really good analogies throughout, so I got to give you credit there. Your
Oh,
analogies were
thanks,
spot
man.
on. I know a little bit about, power, but you just explained things way quicker than I would have to think to figure it out. So thank you for those analogies.
Hey,
And
thank you, man.
so last two questions. I'm assuming the first one is you don't have time, but so this is the Kinesia Outdoors podcast. I'm all about exercise for like longevity. And I'm guessing you don't have much time to exercise, but when you do have time, what is it like that you like to do for your fitness routine?
I do a lot of jujitsu. So
Nice.
I do jujitsu. I try and do 3 or 4 days a week and then go on hikes and body weight stuff. If I was more disciplined, I need to be more disciplined and get back to lifting weights because I used to lift weights a lot and now I don't because I'm pathetic and lazy and undisciplined. And yeah,
And
so I would
kids
say,
and a business and
yeah, but
you want to
that's
stay
all excuses,
married.
man. I just need to I need to sleep less and work more and be more disciplined. But yeah, man. So I would say jujitsu,
Yeah, which
hiking,
is great.
body weight. Um, so yeah, that's probably the main things.
Well, sweet. And then last thing is, do you have any exciting hunts for the year?
Yeah, man. It's kind of I don't know. It's depressing and exciting all at the same time. I had to turn in an elk tag already because of business, because of Grakksaw stuff had to get done. I have a bear hunt I'm supposed to leave on for this Friday with a friend, but I probably have to turn that, or actually I won't be able to turn that tag in. I'll probably just have to eat that tag and not go because of the boiler release because I'm delayed. So that's the second hunt scratched off, and then
Mm.
I have an elk tag in Idaho, general elk tag, opening October 15th.
Hmm.
And then after that, I'm taking my brother-in-law, who's a Navy pilot, into Colorado, just OTC rifle.
That's cool.
So I can't miss that hunt. I won't miss that hunt. So I might have to miss the Idaho. I might not hunt for myself really this year, but I'm going to go with my brother-in-law for sure. So I will at least have one elk hunt in end of October. So
Okay. Well, it's a bummer
I
you
can't
have to
complain.
forfeit tag,
That's pretty
but
blessed.
yeah, definitely. Well, cool. Thanks for sitting down and chatting with me. Keep
Yeah.
up the good work. You're definitely super creative with these things you're coming out with, and you explain it really well. So, unless you have
Thanks.
anything you want to talk about, I'll let you get out of here, get back to that crazy life that you've got. I got go make breakfast for
No,
my little one.
no, man. Thanks, Steven. I appreciate it, dude. And sorry I made you have to get up so early to do this.
Oh,
We
I have
got a
a
big time
2-year-old. I'm
difference
up
for
by
everybody
6. If I
listening.
sleep into
So
6, I'm sleeping in. So,
yeah.
no problem at
Okay.
all. All right, well, enjoy your day. And for those listening, thank you for listening. If you're not moving, get moving. If you've been moving, just stay moving, and we'll catch you in the next podcast.